Welcome back to the Battery Podcast. I'm Aiden,
I'm Jack.
And I'm Casey.
and we are, I guess, 24 hours plus away from the draft as you're listening to this, if you're listening to it right when it comes out. Um, yeah, it's an exciting time of year for every sports fan. I think no matter what sport you are a fan of, rather, that draft, that influx of new talent, the new hope that it can bring, that whether it's that missing piece to get you over the hump or completely revamp your franchise, like we've seen the Redwoods and Outlaws do the last couple of years. Um, Really, really excited. And obviously, the Cannons have the highest they've ever picked in the PLL. So they're definitely going to get a big impact player with that second overall. Um, and to talk about that, we've got Kevin Brown from Inside Lacrosse. He's full-time coverage of pro lacrosse of the PLL. So definitely had a lot of fantastic insights to share with us. Um, yeah, Jack, Casey, anything else you want to say before we take it away with Kevin?
Not for me, Casey. You?
Just looking forward to all of the cool insights that he can give us and help us understand maybe what to expect on Wednesday.
Yeah, Tuesday, right?
Tuesday.
Yeah,
Well, Wednesday
Tuesday.
for the women.
yeah,
Tuesday
Wednesday for
for
Yes.
the men.
WLL, which
Yes.
we did not or we will not go into with Kevin. I think his area is more the men's game as of now, but I think both Inside Lacrosse and us and everyone is looking forward to that expanding and growing. Um, yeah, I guess maybe just for a quick second, like this first WLL draft is fascinating, right? Because like these teams had sixes rosters that they augmented a little bit, but you still feel like there's a lot of holes that every team has to fill. So
Hmm.
it'll be really, really interesting to see where they go with that. I don't know actually how many rounds it is, if it's four, but it feels like it should be a lot more. Um, just with how many spaces they need, and you got to feel like there's going to be a lot of training camp invites that are going to have a really good shot to make those rosters.
I mean, they did have the supplemental draft, though, so they technically do have more bodies on the rosters. So I would imagine, especially because of the whole made for TV nature of the drafts now, I am assuming that the WLL college draft is just literally going to be the women's version of the men's draft that we know. So that's probably why they had the supplemental draft already, was so that they could have enough people already rostered to make a 4 round draft make sense.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there because if what they had 13 under contract from Champ Series and that went to 17 with the supplemental, then getting to 21 would be a game day roster, and then yeah, you figure there's going to be some training camp invites that happen after that, which happen in every sport.
Right.
Yeah, all right. So I do wish we had more to say about the women's draft. Kylie O'Miller, we could not get on the podcast in time, but I think with that, let's switch it over now to Kevin Brown to talk about what's coming up tomorrow with the PLL draft. And welcome to the podcast, Inside Lacrosse's PLL draft expert, Kevin Brown. Kevin, thanks for coming on with us.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's draft week here. We're if you're listening to this, it's days, if not hours. I don't know when you guys are posting this until the Boston Cannons are on the clock with number two picks. It's going to be a fun night, and then obviously the Boston Guard getting their first draft going the night after. So some fun times here for you Boston fans.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're all very excited. Obviously the draft and the season getting started earlier. Where I think we're just happy there's more lacrosse to go around. Um, yeah, so I guess could you just start by just quickly introducing yourself? So you're inside lacrosse, right? Yeah, just talk about what you do for them and the kind of stuff you focus on.
Yeah, well, thanks for introducing me. First off, I'm a managing editor of Inside Lacrosse. I kind of take the mantle of doing a lot of the pro coverage for the PLL, and now it's great until we're getting some WLL action this summer here, so that'll be fun to cover as well. But yeah, went to University of Maryland, graduated with a journalism degree. Fun covering the Terps both men's and women's during my time there, and then got to do some freelancing for Inside Lacrosse starting in 2019. Rose up the ranks a little bit, got full time employment in 2022, and yeah, I've been enjoying covering my favorite sport ever since.
Awesome. Yeah. So thank you. Yeah. Thank you again for spending time with us. I think, knowing that you went to Maryland, I think before we get to this draft questions, I guess like what's your relationship with some of the Terps playing now in the league? Is there any kind of how many of them did you know in college? And like, I don't know, they give you any special insights having maybe known them for a little bit longer?
Yeah, so I was calling the game in 2017 as a freshman. So I graduated in 2020, and 2017, you might remember, was in your backyard in Gillette,
Hmm.
and both the men and women were there balling out. So that was Matt Rambo and Colin Heacock's team, and
Yep.
finally breaking the title down first time since 75 that they won. So that was a pretty cool moment to be part of and call the game and do some color for. But off the field wise, really just if I see him out, I'll say hi, and if I can grab a beer with him, if it's a post game scenario, that's fantastic. But yeah, no, just love seeing the Terps do well. If they're pretty built to do well with the culture of that program for the pro ranks. So I know we got some good Terps coming out this year as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we had Dan Aresti on a month or two ago, and he's like, when in doubt, you can't go wrong drafting a Maryland player. I think he specifically was talking about like a Maryland defender. Obviously, this was before Schaller got hurt, but yeah, they turn out pros pretty consistently over the last 10 or so years.
No doubt.
Yeah.
And this draft class, maybe not as loaded as other Maryland draft classes, but still gonna have some good studs, maybe some sleepers if guys like Henry Dodge doesn't get drafted, or if someone needs a faceoff guy in a pinch, or how far does a guy like Leo Johnson with his career from Yale now in a grad transfer playing lefty attack for the Terps? How far does he fall in the draft order? So plenty to pay attention to aside from the obvious storyline of who's going to pick Will Schaller and do a draft and stash situation with such a talented player, and no, I don't have much confirmed about the injury. You'll have to talk to Reshta about that, but he did the initial reporting with him missing the season ending injury, and by all accounts he'll have a lengthy recovery ahead of him. But you got to just look for a team that already has enough players on it to even make a move like that. And I think the Boston Cannons are one of them that they need to hit with their draft capital, and they got plenty of it with 5 picks in the first 20 selections. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're all very excited to see that kind of the inverse of how the Cannons started off in the PLL for sure, with like no first round picks for the first couple of years. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I guess Jack, where do you want to start, or Casey, with talking
Yeah,
next week or this
I
week?
mean, yeah, I guess we'll just go right cut to the chase here. You're just talking about Schaller. I think everyone thought as soon as the Cannons locked up the number 2 pick, all right, they got to take a poll there, and it was between Bobby Van Buren and Schaller. Bobby Van Buren goes down, so it seemed like it was destined to be Schaller, and now with his injury, that feels really up in the air. Um, I know that you put out a mock a few days ago where you put Ada McGuire as the number 2 pick there. So I guess you just talk a little bit more about that. Like, why do you see McGuire as a fit? Why do you not see them taking a poll at that position? Where do they end up taking a poll? Kind of just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating, Jack, and talking to these coaches and general managers making these selections, it's the overall sentiment is one, the close defense thinned out pretty quick with what you mentioned there. Once Schaller and BVB went down to season-ending injuries, BVB is definitely going back to Ohio State for another year to uh, come back from injury, and we'll see what Schaller does. And again, an important note for fans to think about is if a player goes back to school and plays lacrosse, then the team that drafted them loses their rights. If a player goes back and plays like football or doesn't play for a year, that team retains his rights. So it's a quite a gamble if you're going to go with Will Schaller, and that's why I wouldn't expect him to go maybe definitely not in the first round. And I ended up putting him in the second round to a team like the Water Dogs that they've got plenty of players,
Yeah.
so they don't need too many more players here and coming into training camp. But to answer your question, the overall consensus with this top three seems pretty set. With it's either going to be Aiden McGuire, Joey Spallina, or Mikey Weissauer, and what order it ends up being will be fascinating because with a lot of it's fun doing these mock drafts because a lot of these orders can change up pretty quickly depending on how like there's some recency bias with these guys making these draft selections because they're going to be locked in to the college games this weekend, and we've got a loaded slate in week 10 for men's division one. So there's going to be some telling performances. Duke's got their backs against the wall, but Aiden McGuire has just been standing out head and shoulders above all defensive midfielders this year. And that I'm not in position to announce any retirements. I'm kind of forgetful of who has and hasn't announced yet, but Cannons fans can expect some more, I think, announcements coming. And the defensive midfield position is just so important at the pro level because every team is going to attack those D mids every offensive possession. And Aiden McGuire is a guy that, yeah, he takes some chances in the college game to get those calls turnovers, whether it's anticipating and getting in the passing lane or throwing that one-handed wrap check to get a crazy takeaway. But a lot of times it's working, and in the pro ranks he's gonna rein it in. And when he does, this Cannons defense, when they get stops and hit him on the fast break as the leaker or the trailer guy, he can make you pay. And with the 10 less yards in the middle of the field in the PLL game, it's such a difference maker to have a guy like him playing both ways.
Okay. I mean, I would say I'm kind of surprised, in that mock that you didn't have them taking, a long pull, but with the kind of, I think we can maybe read between the lines here as to who might be retiring. Um, but yeah, I mean that you painted a very exciting picture for taking Aiden McGuire, and obviously, I personally would love an Aiden on the roster, because I think that that transition in the MLL or PLL rather, whoa, is something that's so that was such an important part of the game. And yeah, I don't know, I guess that becomes quite a big hole then if we'll say what the trio of Goodrich, Trainer, and Ramsey are not all coming back. And Bubba Fairman, I know, um, Asher told us last week that he was still up on the air. Um, yeah, I don't know. And I guess you think then, one of those maybe other prospects, because I think we still feel like the Cannons are going to have to go poll at some point. So you feel whether it's like Donovan or Alex Ross or can't think of the next name, but that one of those kind of next
Yeah,
tier of polls is still pretty confidently going to be there in the second round.
someone has to fall,
That's
and
fair. Duan, Billy
you
Duan.
know there's going to be a really talented poll available with that 2.2 selection. In my mock, I gave Hunter Smith the nod there because I had Billy Dwan the third and Alex Ross both going in the first round there. So it'll be interesting to see who ends up being available for Brian Holman to actually select. But Hunter Smith is a guy who can lock down and be an eraser. And, he's playing in such a system at Richmond. And listen, Paul Richards is a defensive mastermind, and he's done it for years now. And they're on the precipice of great things. They were just ranked number one in the country for a reason with that program best start. And Hunter Smith is a big reason why. He's a leader, he's an organizer, but most importantly, he can match feet and he can play physically with the bigger attackman. So he can match feet with the speedy attackman. You can press out against them. Think you're Michael Sowers, and then he can also match up with CJ Kirst. And then you can also match up with Matt Rambo or Zed Zilla. So Hunter Smith is a very exciting prospect. And while he might not have like the Billy Dwan fashionable transition goals, he can get the job done for sure.
Yeah. I mean, the Cannons definitely have the players on the roster and other positions, obviously, like Rawl and Grant can both fill that role. Just for anyone listening, I just looked up 6'2", 220 for Hunter Smith. So yeah, I think he could probably handle some of those bigger boys. Obviously he doesn't have to go against Asher, but Zed or Rambo or um
Yeah,
um
he's not small.
no, very, very much not. Uh I wonder if we could return to the first overall pick. Obviously, the whole lacrosse world is wondering if the Archers are going to keep that pick or if Trader Joe's going to do his work. Um, do you think Joey Spallina is actually the best prospect in the draft? And if his father was not involved with the league, do you think he would be the consensus number one pick still?
Yes and yes, because yes and no. Or maybe it's no and a yes, depending on what order I'm going to answer this in. And I'll tell you why. It's because Joey Spallina has taken his game up a level this season, and he is so elite at everything. People want to harp on the fact that he might not be the fastest player, and as a post up style attackman, that might not translate as well as some of the speedier guys coming out.
Hmm.
So, but you think to the Archers' offensive play style, and you can just see him whizzing the ball around with that offensive talent. And they already have Sam King.
Yeah.
He's already that fast, and he can dodge those speedy defensemen around X. You just need Joey to make the right reads and do what he does best, and that's what, whether it's spot feeds or using his vision to pass open teammates, even he's going to be a really exciting PLL prospect. And the only reason I have slight hesitancy with Joey Spallina is because he's going to be such a great NLL player as well. And he has really great interest in playing in both leagues. So how do you balance that? What does that look like with the growing PLL schedule? I know the PLL and the NLL are actively working together to avoid any overlap with their schedules. So by any means, any foreseeable future in all player metrics will dictate that he is the best player coming out in this class. And no, I had some trouble with that. You can see the way ahead mock that I did in the fall. I had Weissar because I just love his speed. I think a lot of people, and talking to the coaches and GMs and draft prep this week, like Andrew McAdory, like his rookie season just opened some eyes with what blazing speed does for an offense and the 32-second shot clock, and just having a guy that can create space for others and create his own shot at will. And that's what Weissar does. So that's kind of the balancing act that you think of there. And when you look at their lefties for the Archers, you got Mac O'Keefe and you got Connor Fields. So how does a lefty like Weissar fit into that
Hmm.
side of things. You got Ryan Ambler still. Dyson Williams just picked up an injury with the NLL. So how does that affect Chris Bates's board? But overall, like no matter what system you're playing and what style of play that your offense employs, like Joey Spleen is going to be able to fit in anything. You saw kind of the really started last year against that Sean Light matchup. Like he can play off ball too. He doesn't need the ball on his stick. That's what Syracuse needs out of him,
Hmm.
especially without Hiltz this season. And Michael Leo has shifted down to attack. Finn Thompson, also an exciting NLL and pro prospect down there as the finisher. But Joey can really play off ball, and his finishing, man, he's got so much power, and obviously he's really honed in his accuracy and playing summer ball up north. But his power is pretty unbelievable as the point man on those fast breaks when Syracuse goes coast to coast.
Yeah, for sure. Jack, does this get you excited about the possibility of the Cannons taking him if he's still there at two?
No. Oh, no, no, it does not. No shade against Joey Spalina. I just something about him just irks me. His persona just rubs me the wrong way. But you know what? Aiden, you mentioned it, but Kevin, I don't know if you answered it. Do we see Trader Joe come in there and take his son, or is Chris Bates taking Joey then? If you think Splina is the number one pick.
I mean, I for one would love a draft day trade. It's got to be the right deal. And what these GMs and coaches do to each other is they just drive up the highest bargain until one of them's like, all right, listen, this negotiating is going nowhere. It's hard to make trades in this league. And when you got a guy of Joey's caliber, he might not be for everyone, whether you're looking for the antics and the trash talk at times, but he can really ball out. So what I would put it at like a less than 20% chance that we see a Redwoods trade for Joey Splina.
Wow.
What if you increase the scope to just any trader? Do you think it's either the Redwoods or the only team that would be interested in doing that?
Well, I tell you, if another team trades up, it might be for Ian McGuire. There's a lot of teams
Mm.
that need defensive midfield as a big strength. You think of the Whip Snakes.
Hmm.
Roman Pugliese announced his retirement. A pretty short playing career for him, and ever since Ty Warner left and retired and became a doctor, they've been needing D mid strength, and they're drafting at number 3. So as you can tell from my mock, like they're kind of at the behest of whatever the Cannons do at number 2. And if Holman takes McGuire at 2, does that incentivize Jim Stagnita to say, "Hey, Chris, I need Aiden McGuire bad, man"? Like he's probably not going to come to the negotiating table like that because he loses all leverage. But you can see what I mean. Like he needs some defense midfield strength, and I do want to come up with some memes for Tuesday night, and just like Jim Stagnita's board, and it's just like defensive midfield on like a white paper. Maybe if you guys can help me be a little more creative.
Yeah, I think we can try to consult
Yeah.
the internet for some good templates because yeah, that has perennially felt like a weakness of that team. Feels like even when they were winning those championships, like those were I guess the short stick D-mids are never like the first guys you think of, but I like whenever I was trying to think of the Whipsnakes roster, I could never come up with aside from Jake Bernhardt, who their middies were, or D-mids were rather. And yeah, I mean Mazur was great last year, but you got to think he's not going to be too long for the league with his army commitments. Um, Yeah, I mean, I
Right.
would love to. I would love to squeeze the whips as much as Trader Joe might try to squeeze, or rather Bates might try to squeeze Trader Joe. Um,
There you go.
yeah, because that's fun to think of who the cannons might be able to get from them. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit later. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, we all love a draft day trade, I think. that's almost as exciting as the picks themselves. Um, let's talk about our not playing for a Massachusetts school maybe, but like the top prospect in the league who's from Massachusetts. Do you think there's any chance that Chad Palumbo falls to the Cannons at 10, I suppose?
So
Of course, they could take him at 2, but
right, and by that you mean fall into the 2.2
yeah,
and 10th overall pick in this draft. And by all, I really doubt it. The way he's come into play attack when Pipadano picked up a hamstring injury for Princeton this season, he's just shown that like no matter how many ACL tears, like he can just get the job done and swim past anyone at GLE and throw some crazy BTBs. And he's just so slick that he's going to translate and perform in any offense as that he's going to come out of the box to the pro level and play some really sick two-man games. And to your point, dreaming of Palumbo Coulter Maxey reunion would be pretty enticing for you guys, I bet.
yeah, yeah. But if that doesn't happen, we'll get Nate Kadiri next year, and he'll take over for Holman, Marcus Holman.
There you
Uh,
go.
yeah, I unfortunately think you're right. I think Palumbo has acquitted himself too well this year to fall in the draft, unfortunately. Or I mean, fortunately for him, obviously, but we would certainly love to see him. I'm sure he'd love to play for Boston, but um, yeah, he's gonna have a great career. Do you think there are any other Boston area prospects? Probably be someone like Teddy Millen at Harvard or anyone at BU who you think has a shot at getting drafted or a training camp invite period or has a chance to be a good PLL pro.
Yeah, Teddy Malone is interesting. He very two-handed like TJ Malone, a little less productive than TJ in his Penn State career. He's had a really interesting up and down, being the second guy alongside Sam King until Jack Spidell really broke out last year. He became the third option. Now he's back to really the second option with Spidell being the first. And he's having a very solid year. And for Boston, it'd be a natural fit for him to stay. Another guy coming out. Coach and GMs are sometimes wary of overdrafting in the Ivy League, but a guy who just looks like an absolute gamer is Logan Hitt, midfielder out of Harvard,
Hmm.
super productive, midseason first team All American for us. And his ability to score with both hands really translates well. His ability to create his own shot really translates. And he's just an overall baller. And he does it at the World Lacrosse stage with Team Hong Kong as well. So you'd have to think that he's pretty into the game. And a thing that Coach Brian Holman deserves some praise for. He does his homework. Like he's on FaceTime with all these players and getting the down low. So whatever route he goes, he'll have done his homework. You mentioned BU, the really only player I can think of that could be on the draft board is Connor Kim, the close defenseman. It'll be interesting to see how he translates coming from a 10-man ride, very like
Yeah.
helter skelter system to the pro ranks. But he's got the athleticism and the frame to do so. So those are the only guys that I can think of. And then you add in the D3 sweetheart from Tufts with Jack Regneri throwing some twisters, and that'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, it feels like there's been too long since we've seen a Tufts player in pro lacrosse. I knew we had John Upgren back in the MLL days, played for the Cannons. Uh,
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think we've had another one since, or at least not one that's stuck around for a long time. But I mean, they're perennially so good. I say that having gone to a rival NESCAC school. Um, so it'd be exciting. Hopefully, yeah, hopefully he gets a shot or someone else in the very near future because I feel like that team. Isn't that always like the joke of like could Tufts beat a D1
Totally.
or like
It is the wrench that'll be thrown in this year. And you remember less than a month away. We're recording this on April 10th on a Friday, and the season starts on May 8th. And Tufts is, I don't want to jinx them here because there's been some crazy D3
Mm.
results, but for everyone else besides Tufts, really, and Tufts is pretty bound to make it to Memorial Day, so you're gonna have to miss the first few games. And training camp is pretty important for these rookies, especially at the D2, D3 level, to even like stand out.
Yeah,
And but if you see an injury here or there, maybe he gets a shot.
for sure. Yeah, it does seem like almost impossible for a rookie to try to crack the roster to get playing time if they missed all of training camp, especially because they were playing all the way to Memorial Day. Um, the fatigue and stuff also, but just like catching up and yeah, like you said, particularly at a D3 school, it just seems like the pace of the game is so much faster. I remember Sterling Hub from the Texas club team got invited, and he got like one interview in the vlog, and he was like, "Oh my God, it's so fast!" Like, or Tufts, I'm gonna say is probably a better program than the Texas club team, but yeah, you got to figure
Mm-hmm.
it's an adjustment period for everyone. Um, even CJ Kirst we saw did not come in and look great right out of the gate last year. Looked great by the end of it, but
I put that more down to he had a broken hand and
of
stuff,
course.
but yeah, because so Holman did pick up. I'm looking back at the roster. All right, Bryson Shaw, is that who you just mentioned, or
No, this was Sterling Hupp was like
Sterling Hupp.
last
2 years
year? Yeah,
ago.
yeah, yeah. Sterling Hupp, right.
Yeah,
So this
yeah,
year it'll be interesting to see what kind of shot Bryson Shaw gets. D Mitty coming to camp,
but hasn't played since high school. Yeah,
right?
um,
I
yeah, kind of
don't
a
like his chances.
no. I don't as well, or I don't either. Yeah, obviously great athlete playing at Ohio State and USC, but we'll see what those stick skills look like after 5 years off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the talent keeps
Oh,
getting better and better. So
Yeah, if you can time it up and get to tackle some opposing middies, I like his chances. But if the refs are looking at him, that's an uphill battle for sure.
on the topic of Tufts there, hopefully going to Memorial Day, how do you expect teams to evaluate taking, the top guy or best fit or whatnot versus someone that they're confident would be available week one? Obviously, given that you'd be missing more time in the season now with the college, and you also have to worry about guys potentially missing time from the NLL. So it becomes even more important just to have those bodies. So how do you see that factoring into draft strategies?
yeah, it's a great question. And the way actually Holman explained it to me was, listen, we have to construct three rosters for this season. First is going to be the training camp roster. He's going to have to make the cuts, get to the 25, back to the 25 number for game one. But to your point, there's going to be a third of the roster missing that and again, it'll vary from team to team here, but for the Cannons specifically, either the rookies that they do draft in the first couple of rounds that make it far, I think you're still going to want to draft best available. You just have to hit on your other draft picks and via the waiver wire. That way, when you get those reinforcements, you're not playing catch up. If you're going to lose your first couple of games, you don't want to look back at that like, oh, I could have done more, and prepare for a better roster for these first couple of games where I knew I was going to have guys unavailable due to NLL playoffs or college lacrosse tournament. So we'll certainly get some clarity, but you're still going to see guys draft the best available. This is still very much a win now league every year, and that's kind of the most apparent when you kind of consider those service academy guys like Army's Evan Plunkett would be a first round guy no matter what, no matter who's drafted. If he was at any other program, because of his playmaking, vision, productivity, and athleticism. But because of his Army requirements, guys are trying to figure out all right, he'll definitely be able to play some contributions this first year, right? Until he gets his assignment, and then after that, it's up to his commanding officer, and kind of navigating that. It's like you don't find that out until next year, and then you don't figure out what kind of commanding officer and how into sports he is until you get to whatever base you're assigned to, so some big things to consider for guys like that, and then the Canadians as well with the visa issues. A guy like Matt Collis and Silas Richmond, I know they're very good prospects, but you're not going to have them for half the season because NCAA eligibility. The PLL, I wrote in the mock draft that they're being a little more proactive this year and getting them the paperwork, make sure they can sign the dotted I's and cross the T's right away. But until they finish their college careers, they can't sign anything like that until their final game, because then they'll be ineligible.
Right.
Is how it was explained to me. So it's interesting stuff that not every fan thinks about, and with these different rosters that you have to build. Back to my original point, you're gonna have the first 3 games or so. Then you're gonna, look to get the rookies involved. So that's your second roster, see what they can give you. Then your third roster is your home stretch team that you're hoping is your best available and who you can just roll out there. But I'm thinking that even in round 3, like I do want to tweet this out. I only did a 2-round mock. It's kind of all we do at IL. Because you guys are gracious enough to have me on here. That these are the guys who I'm thinking might drop, and it would be pretty incredible if you ask me, if they do to round 3. So I had Michael Leo in their last pick in the second round, which would be a pretty electric lefty to pair with Coulter, Maxey, and all the stuff Leo can give you. Then round 3, if you get an organizer to pair with who did I have? Hunter Smith, who's kind of that eraser. If you get a guy like Cullen Brown from Ohio State, who's an organizer, communicator, more of a number 2 pole, Bryce Young just retired. If he can kind of assume that role and lay the lumber and do what Buckeye defenders do, that's a great pickup. And a couple picks later, you get a guy like Leo Johnson, who we mentioned at the top of the pod.
Mm.
That's another lefty option.
Yeah.
We'll see how far Maryland can get in this postseason. But if they can keep turning their season around, he's a gamer, even though he's got that Ivy League degree. And so, yeah, that's their last pick. And Brian Holman's really never had this much draft capital, so it'll be really fascinating to see. He's like I said, he's doing his due diligence with these picks, and if he can get those 5 guys, I think that's a great haul.
Yeah, that's certainly. I mean, even just 5 draft picks overall for the Cannons sounds like a great haul. Um, you got to hit on it, but yeah, someone like Leo, Michael Leo rather, would be, I mean, electric. Yeah, after I mean that Syracuse team, one thing they do very well is score goals. Um, a position that you didn't mention there, and I know we as Cannons fans have been pretty worried about, is the face-off. Do you think that there would be a face-off guy drafted? Do you think it's worth drafting a face-off guy, or do you think that that's someone you could pick up post-draft via free agency?
It's a good question. I really don't. I don't think it's worth it. Not. I'm not team face off. Doesn't matter. I'm. This was explained to me that there's no one in this draft class that's gonna be able to compete or out duel Trevor Baptiste and T. Erlin. There's just
Mhm.
not. So
Yeah.
you got Zach Tucci, who as long as he stops fouling all the time, he'll be able to give you some juice goals, get close to 50%, and that's what you need. If you can get enough defensive stops and you're getting more 52-second possessions on the offensive end. So I really don't think taking a faceoff guy is the answer in the draft. If you want to bring another guy to camp, there's going to be guys that fall out of the draft and are going to be available undrafted right away, and you can go that route. A guy like Jack Cascadden's been a little banged up for Cornell. Henry Dodge, I mentioned a little. He's got the percentage, but does he have the pro lacrosse athleticism? Because these guys are just whacking you when you pick up the ball. You
Right.
got to run away. You got to get a ball safely to a teammate, as we saw kind of the struggles of Denver's Connor Farrell getting phased out of the league a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be able to be a lacrosse player, and I look at a guy who could be a sleeper if you guys really want a face-off guy is High Points. Luca Cardo has been on an absolute tear for the Panthers. You got to look up his numbers against some of these A10 oppositions. It's like 22 for 23, 21 for 25, and just like pretty crazy. I had to vote him on my second team midseason All-American, and he's coming out. He's a senior, so it'll be interesting to see if anyone gives him a good look. But that's kind of a good example of a guy who can just not get drafted. You can bring to camp, see what he can give you. Maybe he's a Joshua Balcarcel training camp story and does really well and beats out Zach Tucci. But
Yeah.
to me, I think they're sticking with Tucci.
Do we know if he's another finance guy?
that's the question. That is the question, Casey. It'll be these finance guys, as long as they find time to make it to Friday walkthrough and practice.
Right.
But yeah, until we get the home and aways and people, the players living in markets, that's going to be a question for these general managers to navigate.
Yeah, I'm trying to find. I don't see his major on his page on the website, which is kind of
I love
unusual.
you guys doing the sleuthing though.
Yeah.
LinkedIn will tell you everything you need to know.
Mm.
It's my best kept, not so much secret, but yeah. But I mean, Tooch is Tucci's a finance guy. He's working in New York City. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I mean, I think we need to give him a little bit of run for his money. And this is just my side note, my personal opinion. We need to get somebody in there who's going to give him a run for his money and make him really show us more. Because I think he has it, but he's got to bring it.
Yeah. And we do have Tommy Burke from UVM and then Ohio State as well. So we'll see if Holman feels it's worth it to put a third guy in that competition. I don't know. Is there
Right.
an
It's such
limit
a
to the number of?
limited, yeah, it's such a short roster that you can't have 3 or 4 face-off guys. Because to your point,
No.
Tommy Burke hasn't really gotten a shot,
Yeah.
and he had a pretty good college career, especially out of Vermont. And he stepped up against better opposition in the Big Ten and was solid. Wasn't maybe the complete answer, but I think he'd be a good change of pace guy if. But Tucci's, yeah, he's got some athleticism and he can can that shot from time to time. You think about that Water Dogs game, and the
Mm-hmm.
revenge Tucci game.
Hmm. Yeah. Is there an upper limit to the number of people you can invite to training camp? I know it's got to be whittled down to 25 at the end, but could you have 35, 40 on day one at least?
No, that's different this year, I believe. So it's always been 30, and you got to make 5 cuts pretty
Hmm.
early in the week too. So you had to judge in 2, 3 practices, and they're like, all right, you didn't show me enough. And I think it's one less guy this year. I think it's 29 that you're
Oh,
allowed to
wow.
bring. Don't quote me on that. But I got a fact check. So someone fact check me here. And but I do think it's 29 guys you're allowed to bring to camp. You gotta dwindle it down by the end or by the middle of the camp. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
But
And it also like feels like with all the moves, of course, retirements and NLL and college coaching stuff is going to be different, but it feels like the Cannons might already have 29 guys on the roster with how active Coach Holman was during that first like player.
Hmm.
There we go. There's the roster. I'm not going to sit here and count them for all, but um, it's a lot. I mean, 7 guys listed at attack. Um, oh yeah, Matt Licata. I mean, I've forgotten like a lot of these names even already. I guess Drenner we know is out. Anyway, um, yeah, 3 face-up guys invited to training camp does feel like a lot. Um, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. If only Brady Wambach was coming up next year, hopefully the Cannons will. I'm sure he's not going to be a first round pick just because most guys like the guy they have, but hopefully he feels like someone that maybe it'd be worth investing a little bit more capital in.
oh, I disagree. Yeah, everyone's got their eyes on Wambach. Like when he comes out, he'll probably be a first rounder. That's how good this guy is.
Oh
Like,
wow. All right.
Wow.
So you feel like I mean, like you said, the Woods and the Atlas have got to feel confident. Although I don't know. I don't know how many more years Trevor wants to keep playing. But as long as he wants to, it feels like he's the guy you got to rock with. Um,
right, learned under TD, Rochester guy, nephew of Abby Wambach, of course.
oh,
So
wow. I
he's got a
Mm.
great story. He triathlete. We just had him on the IL pod with D-Fly and Dixie, and it's a great interview. I recommend going and listen to it because he's got a great cause for doing triathlons. He lost his father, and he raises awareness and money. Does it with a purpose, and it's you can tell because he stays in great shape. He's got such great stamina. He's taking all these face offs, and God willing, hoping he can avoid injuries because he's been just super available and super athletic and really talented, and
yeah.
very much the key for why North Carolina is the current number one.
Yeah. I mean, from everything you're saying, like if he's religious too, I feel like Coach Holman's going to do everything he can to get that guy in the locker room.
That I cannot
Would
confirm.
Yeah, that find his Instagram later, see about that. Um,
Yeah, LinkedIn message him.
yeah.
already on it.
Uh,
Um, let's see, Jack. I think you had a couple more questions if you to one of those.
yeah, sure. I think actually just one more here for you, Kevin. That something I was curious about is in your conversations with teams. The league is starting to shift, obviously, towards separating the coach and the GM. So we're in this weird in between where you got some teams like the Cannons where Holman is one and the same, but then you've got other teams where they're breaking that into two roles, like every other league. Have you noticed like a difference of approach to whether it be the draft specifically, that's what's spurring it, but also just how sort of the teams are run, like with player movement and regards and like that? Can you tell that like there's a difference between these teams are run by one person and these teams have those two people in charge?
Oh, 100%. It's quite fascinating because the guys that do have a general manager have such a great advantage. And it's really just finding the right fit
Mm.
for the have-nots so far. I don't know whether it's stubbornness or there's just no great guy that they feel the chemistry enough to work alongside or under. And but you look at the Gavin Adler free agency saga and the way that Dave Cottle handled that with the Philadelphia Water Dogs against a guy like Mike Pressler, who was on his own, and he thought everyone was coming back after the title run. And Cottle just persuaded him quite well to take his time, but ended up making the decision to jump ship to Eastern Conference rival. So it's been very fascinating. You can definitely tell the difference. Um, Trader Joe Spallina has been doing wonders. Just traded for with another GM with Dave Cottle that I reported that sent a 2027 third round pick for Dylan Ward's services to shore up the goalie position. Spencer Ford's been wheeling and dealing, working on some draft day deals that you might see. So we'll see if those come to fruition. And those are things that like are just the most helpful. Going back to that Ward trade, it's like if you have a GM that can make that call and you're the coach and you're just like looking at a legend like Dylan Ward in the eyes, like, hey man, we're going in a different direction. Like having someone else do that is a lot easier, just from a
Yeah.
personal level that you can just be like,
Mm.
all right, this guy isn't worried that I'm gonna be benching him the next week. You know,
Hmm.
this guy can be engaged in how I coach him and not be worried that all right, he's going to trade me if I don't do this. So that kind of dynamic alone has these guys that do have both these teams that do have both a GM and a coach a big advantage.
How long before you think that just becomes standard across the league to break it out then?
Yeah, it's hard to predict. I was asking Mike Pressler about it, and it's around the time that Gavin Adler was making his decision, and like just back to my point, it's just like who who can he trust to have that relationship with that Bill Tierney and Dave Cottle have had like a close friendship for decades. So Mike Pressler's one of the most connected lacrosse guys you'll ever meet. So I'm sure there's candidates out there. Um, it's just a matter of, to your point, like when when are they going to pull the trigger? Because I know guys like Brian Holman, he's been doing his due diligence that I've been saying, and he likes doing it. Jim Stagnita likes having the final say
Hmm.
for the whips as well. So I don't know
Well,
when. I don't have any timeline for you, but when it starts becoming, as the schedule keeps expanding, we get to get more home and away games in, and it only makes sense to go in that direction.
when you say that, though, that's my follow-up question then is, I guess, is it seems natural to these guys are coaches first is what we think of them as. So you would think, oh, that they would hire a GM. Do you see any of these guys becoming GMs and then having new coaches step in? Like you said, Brian Holman loves
Mm.
doing his due diligence. Do you think that there's a chance that he becomes GM of the Cannons and the Cannons hire
Yeah,
a
like a
coach?
Brad Stevens type of. I know
Yeah,
you guys are probably Celtics fans up there, type of deal.
exactly.
Hire the next Joe Mazzulla. Your guess is as good as mine with that kind of question. That's a good thought there. I like it.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Honestly, I'd probably take Joe Mazzulla as the coach of the Cannons. Not to disparage
Please.
Brian Holman at
I
all, but
love, yeah.
For the press conferences alone, I'd be down.
yeah. Yeah, I would not want to try to ask him a question after a loss, though.
Mm-mm.
Who's teaching him lacrosse so he can get a media versus coaches game in, and he can just
Oh yeah.
work us.
Or what did he scratched his eye last year, right? Joe Mazzulla or something like he got some kind
I
of
think
injury.
He's
Black eye?
intense.
Yeah. He does not
he's
have
he,
anything.
he's a character.
Yeah.
He's a character.
Yeah, he's wild, honestly. You just never know what you're gonna get out of him, except expect the unexpected.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Um, all right. I guess on that basketball note, we will wrap it here. Kevin, thank you very much for the time. I'd ask your predictions, but I suppose we can consult your mock draft for that. Which we'll link that below, of course. Anywhere else you want us to direct people to find your work?
You can find me on Twitter X at KevinBrown89. Thanks so much for having me, Aiden, Casey, and Jack. Love what you guys do. Need some diehard fans and of the league like you guys are. So keep it up, and yeah, appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep tweeting out those breaking stories. We eat them up as fans for sure. Um, yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
And thanks again to Kevin for hopping on, chatting with us. That was a good conversation, guys. That was funny. Definitely gave us some good nuggets there. I'm excited to see what'll happen.
Yeah, it's we I don't know. I'm reminded of that conversation we had with Sarah Griffin a while ago. Just
Mm.
the level of access that Zach's able to, or Kevin, sorry, I don't know where. Oh, Zach Carey, the other one of the other PLO people, but that Kevin's able to have. Um, he just has so much information. I know he said probably, or he hinted at a lot more than he could say on the podcast. So I'm just, you know we didn't say it to him, but like it's a draft where we feel like we don't really know much of what's going to happen, even in the top five picks, which is I think pretty rare for a draft in any sport. So really, I think there's going to be some surprises, and yeah, I don't know. Talking about him mocking up Aiden McGuire, um, with the hint of retirement, you feel like that is maybe is Zach Goodrich because Asher kind of hinted at Bubba, but Bubba didn't play last summer either. Um,
Zach is the one that my mind immediately went to. It. I think we can rule out Ben Ramsey that he's just coming off his rookie year.
Yep.
If Bubba we don't know is in the mix, then it has to be either Jeff or Zach. And Zach obviously came over. I forget what year he
He
was
was
drafted. How old he
2019.
is?
He was like the second or third overall pick in the PLL draft as well. Obviously chose to come with the
Okay,
Canadiens and won he
right.
won Defensive Player of the Year in 2020 in the MLL.
Right. Yeah. So he's been around long enough to have played in the MLL. So he's obviously not a baby anymore in the league. I think he's the longest tenured Cannon, obviously,
Sure.
because he literally played on the Cannons back in the MLL days and has only been on the Cannons in the PLL. But we also have talked about there might be some availability issues with him coaching now with the season starting earlier. So is that kind of one of those, this just lines up well, I'm already not
Hmm.
going to be able to play a full season, so maybe it's just time for me to call it quits kind of thing.
Yeah, I would have thought maybe it'd be 2028 with that maybe full-time commitment because he's the defensive coordinator at Bryant, and Bryant's not having the greatest year. I'm pretty confident they're not going to make the NCAA tournament unless they somehow win their conference. But yeah, don't know what his personal life is outside of lacrosse too well. So feel like that um, might be a shot there. And like I said during the interview, I certainly wouldn't mind having an Aiden on the roster to cheer for. Um, and like I confess, I have not watched too much Duke this year, but everything that everyone says about Aiden McGuire, just they cannot hype him up enough. So I'm
I mean, he talked. We talked a bit about Brady Wambach being a first round talent as a face-off guy next year. That's unheard of, and so it's the same thing with Aiden McGuire. If you're a short stick D midi and you are considered a first round talent, I think Adam Lamberti has him as number one on his big board.
yeah,
So literally the best prospect in the draft as a short stick D midi. Like clearly this guy is good.
yeah, oh yeah. Um, Yeah, that is an extra social point. We've seen attackmen go first overall. We've seen defenders go first overall. I think that's been it. Um, so I don't know if it'll happen eventually, but for someone outside that group, whether it's a goalie or faceoff guy or short 60 mid, you feel like they must be an exceptional talent, and clearly they are. It's funny. I wonder if we redrafted, like with Brett Dobson or he's probably the best example. I actually no, Trevor Baptiste went first overall in the MLL, but in PLL, yeah, with like TD or
Right.
something like those if we could have gone back. Um, Jack, I also wanted to say that I feel like I don't know if the Spalinas listen to this podcast, but I feel like there's a good chance that somehow or another Joey's going to hear about this and you're going to get put on his bulletin board.
We'll take it. And you know what, Joey? If you're coming to Boston, I love you now. So we'll see. You know, but you keep doing you, Joey.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
all I can say.
you don't think he's a bad player, right? Like that's not
Oh
where.
no, he's a stud.
Yeah,
I just it's literally just the cockiness of the interviews just rubs me the wrong way.
yeah, um,
Also, I'm just not
I
a the Syracuse fan.
yeah,
So like just you know a very, some might say confident, some might say arrogant. It depends on your take, but a person of that aura at Syracuse just is not to my taste. That's it. That's
yeah.
all I got.
Casey, you're
Fair
gonna
enough.
yeah,
Oh, I always think it's so funny when Jack starts talking about Joey Spallina.
yeah. I can't wait for the real rants to start once he becomes a pro.
We'll
Listen, I
see.
upstate New York girl, like the first time I ever heard about lacrosse was when I was really little and it was because of Syracuse lacrosse. So, I'm a Boston girl through and through, but I guess you can't really truly take New
Hmm.
York out of the girl.
Yeah,
So I don't know. I am excited to see how he is in the pros. Um, NLL, PLL, both. I'm excited to see him play, but also for the interviews, and I want to see like maybe he'll get humbled a little bit. I don't know,
oh,
or
definitely.
maybe
Mm.
he's gonna hold on to that swagger or arrogance, confidence that he's got, and that's just who he's gonna be through and through.
Yeah, I mean, if he does
Either
wind
way,
up
it's gonna make some fun.
oh yeah, he's gonna be very marketable either way for the league. I'm
Yeah.
sure he's gonna be on some posters and some Instagram posts right away. Aside from just announcing his draft position, obviously. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know. It was interesting to come away. I don't think Kevin really gave us an answer on who the Cannons might take as a poll. I think, or actually, no, sorry, he did.
Hunter
Hunter,
Smith.
yeah,
Mm.
completely with that. But that was what the second round pick. Um, wow, that
And
conversation did not happen very
that's
long.
also so it's one thing to say what he thinks the Cannons will do at two because it's the second pick. There's only so much that can happen before it, but he has Schaller falling past 10, but he had Alex Ross and Billy Dwan both going in the first round. And I think Will Donovan also he
Yep.
had going 9 to the Archers. So those are three polls that if they are there at 10, then very logical for the Cannons to take as well. So that's his take, but who knows what's going to wind up happening on Tuesday night.
Yeah, it is interesting. Like if McGuire is that like top prospect that you can't let pass up, because I guess we feel like Schaller and Van Buren would have been that prospect that it's worth taking first or second overall pick on, and even if Pohl might be the most immediate position in need for the Cannons, if you feel like between I mean there's so many good polls right that one of them is going to be there at 10. And as long as you're okay with not necessarily getting your guy, like if obviously if Brian Holman feels like I have to have Hunter Smith, then maybe you do take him at 10 or you try to trade back up into the first round. But if you're just like, there's four or five great players that we can take to complement our defense, then we're good with whichever one we get, whether it's Dwan or Smith or Donovan or Ross. Um, or another guy, because obviously there's many more polls that are probably going to get drafted in this round. Um, yeah, all right. So we've talked enough about the draft. Hopefully, you're all ready to watch the draft. And if you are in the Boston area, Casey, where can they watch the draft with us and get on ESPN?
come join us at 525 Link, Allston. You can also find the details on our Instagram in the caption too. But we would love to have you guys. We're going to be having some food. I'm not going to give away what it is. It'll be allergy friendly, though. I will say that, and delicious still. Um, and yeah, let's have some fun. Let's hang out, eat some food, and find out who's going to be coming into the PLL next.
Yeah, I think the most number of picks the Cannons have had, and certainly, like I said, the highest pick they've had. So we're gonna get some very, very good players, and you know, hopefully Hunter Smith is playing all the way to Memorial Day weekend, but certainly not all five of those guys are. So we'll find out who we're gonna get to cheer for in Rhode Island in just about a month's time. Um, all right, I think that's all for us. Hopefully, we see you tomorrow. And if not, hopefully we see you in Rhode Island in about a month. But rest assured, we will be back next week to talk about. Honestly, maybe even sooner than next week. It's going to be a very exciting week for us with two drafts happening now. So we'll be back very soon to talk about the new cannons, the new guard players. Um, but until then, go cannons, go guard.
Go Cannons, go Guard.
Go Cannons, go Guard.
Boom.
Boom.
Boom.